Hello! Today's stories come from r/MaliciousCompliance. We've got 4 stories with a cherry on top. First up, buy what I can afford? Okay. Last month, I was shopping around for a washing machine. For context, I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. Yes, it's a place. Yes, it's in Africa. Yes, we have electricity and running water. And I'm a bit of a late bloomer, so I look more like a 23-year-old, but I'm 32. Also, I'm a photographer and I dress for comfort, so I more often than not look homeless. Back to the story. I looked up what I wanted online and saw it was available at one of the major chains, but since I was free, I decided to go to the store in person. I went straight to the section with laundry equipment, and one of the salesmen came to me. I was busy checking out the model I wanted, opening the door, reading the spec sheet, and whatnot. So after he greeted me, we started talking about it. He asked if I'm interested in buying it, and I told him I'm considering it and asked for the price. It was just shy of $900. I knew from their website. But since I was in the store, I asked if they had in store discounts or discounts for return customers and inquired about their payment plans. I had bought a cooker there a few months before, so I knew all these things existed. And while I could afford to buy the washer outright, it would have left me a little cash strapped, and I wanted to spread the payment over 2 or 3 weeks. Also, I'm frugal, so I always look for discounts. At around this time, a well dressed couple came into the same section, probably looking to buy something as well. And as soon as the salesman saw them, he walked to them and left me hanging. I called to him, like, "Hey, I wasn't done." And he said, "I'm serving a client now. I'll come back to you in a bit. In the meantime, look around for something you can afford." I was furious, but I'm a bit of a coward, so I walked away and went to the customer service station and started making my inquiry all over again. The attendant offered to call a sales agent for me. Same guy, apparently he's the go to guy for washing machines, but I declined. I told her I already knew what I wanted and I just needed someone to help me with the paperwork and payment, and I'll be on my way. She did just that. I paid the full amount out of spite, and as we were finishing up, the salesman came up to her claiming I was his client, which I denied, and the attendant listed herself as the sales agent. It turns out they earn a 10% commission from each sale, and the guy just missed out on a decent bonus. Salesmen earn around $300 plus commissions monthly. As I left, I turned to him and said, "Turns out I could afford it," with the biggest grin I could muster. Felt good. Best part? The couple he ditched me for left without buying anything. Ha! I love that the sales agent came to try and get the commission. What an idiot. The saltiness must have been off the charts when customer service agent put themselves down. And now for a super short one, but it was too funny to pass up. No wife of mine will ever wear pants. This is an older story, but one of my favorites. When girls started wearing slacks, my great grandmother told her husband, my great grandfather, that she wanted to get some slacks. He blew up, insisting that no wife of his will ever wear pants. She could have argued, but she accepted his edict quietly. Until they went bowling. She found the shortest skirt she could find. After all, he insisted she keep wearing skirts and dresses. This was in the 50s. That night, he agreed to let her get slacks. Side note, she would also sew shut the flaps on his long underwear when she was mad at him. Oh gosh, so malicious and justified. There were a ton of great stories from years past in the comments. I picked just a couple of my favorites. My grandmother had a friend of her husband decide that he could just drop off a stack of jeans to be mended. No asking, just plonking them down on the table and saying, "Sew up all of the holes." So she did. Sewed all of the pockets shut, leg holes shut. Then she decided that the waist didn't count as a hole. So she sewed the zippers down, open, and of course sewed or patched all of the damaged places. Reportedly, after he fell over trying to put a pair on, he ripped the stitches out of the hem and put them on, only to discover that he couldn't zip them, and he couldn't get to the stitches on the zipper pull with the pants on because she'd very carefully tucked it inside the fly. A coworker of mine years ago told me a story about her mom. Her father had been complaining about her mother being too fat constantly. So her mother took all his clothes and started amending the hems, a little bit each week to the point his clothes barely fit. He thought he was gaining weight. After a month or so, he admitted he needed to lose a few pounds. He had been teased at work for his clothes and apparent weight gain. He apologized to her and she slowly let the hems out again. He never found out, but never said a word about her weight. Our third story is ex-husband backed out on his agreement, ended up costing him so much more in the long run. My ex-husband and I had a great divorce. Even though he cheated on me after 12 years and 2 kids under 4, I really wanted to do things differently than my parents did during their divorce. I never said anything negative about him and tried very hard to defend him when the kids got upset with him. I extended invitations to the woman he left me for so she would not feel uncomfortable with me and we became friends. She was basically their stepmom, so why not include her on everything? On holidays, we all had one big dinner, he and her and me and my boyfriend. This made everyone comfortable and the kids never had to choose one side or the other as we were all on the same page. It was such a great relationship that when I had back surgery, I recovered at his house and she cooked for me. He and I were coaches for the kids' basketball and baseball teams, and I helped at their wedding 13 years later. This was not easy for me, as he moved to another state to raise her children, leaving me to raise ours on my own. She quit her job when they got together, and I had to return to work to support my kids. But I needed to keep the resentment and bitterness away from my kids. All of this sets the tone for the divorce, but when he initially left, I spoke to a lawyer and got a separation agreement that was really great for me. He asked that I not take half of his retirement, but instead he would pay X in child support and additional Y in alimony because he was making a lot of money and I was a stay-at-home mom with a country club membership. Yuck, I hated saying that, but it was only to set the scene. Normally, alimony ends after 5 years, but because I didn't get half of the 401k, the only condition on ending it was it would end on my remarriage or my death. He agreed with all of it. The thing is, when he left me to move down to where she lived, he left his cushy job and took this promising but not delivering position that really screwed him financially. But he never went back to the lawyer to get the child support or alimony reduced. Instead, he borrowed from his mother. When I discovered he was mooching off of her, I suggested to her that she stop paying for him when he finally got back on his feet. She never would do that and continued paying for his life and her to be a stay-at-home mom, even co-signing for a second home for him when he finally moved back to raise his kids. Hers had graduated and lived in his old house. Ours were in high school. He did come to me and ask if I would accept regular child support and half of the alimony. Then later, when he was really earning money, he would pick back up on the past due amount. Not wanting to make waves in an otherwise great divorce, I said yes and kept track each month of what was owed in a shared spreadsheet with him so he could see how far in debt he was getting each month. He ended up owing me $1,000 per month times 10 years. But he said when the kids aged out of child support, he would continue to pay the same amount to make up for the alimony, which totaled $120,000. When my daughter aged out, he continued to pay the same amount, putting a small dent in what he owed for 3 years. Then, as soon as my son aged out, 2 weeks after he joined the Marines, he called me and told me there was no way he was going to continue paying me for the next X years, and I could take him to court if I wanted, but there is no fracking way he would pay me another cent. This completely blew my mind, as we had such a fantastic relationship, and it came out of nowhere. I was completely freaked out, but I took his advice. I contacted an attorney. I sent all his calls to voicemail per my attorney's advice, and I took him to court. The best thing was, prior to the hearing, my attorney put a lien on both homes he had so he could not change ownership to his mom or wife prior to the court hearing. I still have the phone call recording when he realized this and the horrible names he called me for doing that. Since I had kept such immaculate records from that day he changed payments, and he was aware of his debt rising each month, it was a slam dunk for my attorney. Instead of making small payments for a few years, he had 30 days to pay me $120,000 in full. Unfortunately, the kids now have to choose which parent they visit on holidays, but that was not my fault. I was willing to continue as is and not put any strain on the family relationship. And for those who are wondering, yes, he did cheat on her 2 times before they got married, but she had quit her job when they got together because she found a sugar daddy and had nothing to fall back on and nowhere to go, so she stayed with him. Since we were friends, she shared this info with me as I would understand what she was going through. Edit. I got my money on day 29. No other payments will be made. Edit 2. I think the reason he went crazy on me was his mother refused to pay any more when my son aged out. But I explained that he owed a ton in back pay. That's when he said, "If you think I'm making payments to you forever, you're totally nuts." She'd been paying his child support for 10 years because he never went back to a great paying job, even though he could have. Yes, I went to work after separation and have a great career, but my income was still a quarter of his when we were together because we moved every 3 years for his career. He wanted me to stay at home when the kids were born. Edit 3. It is obvious that people do not understand that as a stay at home mom, I could not contribute to my retirement fund because I didn't have earned income, meaning no Social Security, 401k, or IRA. So he maxed out his contributions so we could live comfortably in retirement. After 10 years of marriage, I was legally entitled to half of his retirement. Since he asked me not to take half of his retirement, he offered alimony instead. Then he decided not to pay what he offered and leave me with less retirement funds than I would have had in either case. Slim my or half of his retirement. This is why it was important for me to get what was due, not to live a cushy life, but for my retirement. Thanks for the awards and for the nasty DMs. I'm okay with you calling me horrible names because you don't matter to me at all. I think OP has it right. The people of Reddit obviously missed that she essentially went with whatever her ex requested and only took him to court after he tried to get out of paying. Or am I missing something here? Our next one is super cheeky. I hope you like it as much as I do. My boss told me I was fired as soon as I got to work, laughed, and walked off. I spent the next 2 hours shutting down my station and packing my stuff, even destroyed my client list. Mine was the largest in the branch. When I got home, about 3 hours later, he called me. Hey Z, where are you at? I can't find you in the office. You fired me. Why the hell would I be at work? It's April Fool's. It was a joke. Get back in here. No, you clearly said I'm fired. I'll be taking unemployment for a few months and filing a complaint with HR. He lost his mind and I just hung up on him. It's not fucking funny, and I'm taking a vacation and riding the wrongful termination train. He's called me 10 times and I think HR is calling me now. Edit. I'm really getting DMs calling me a lazy parasite. Love it. Edit 2. I kept my physical copy of the client list and destroyed the digital on-site copy. Edit 3. Rest in peace, my DMs. This post exploded in the hour it has existed. I'm trying to reply to people. Edit 4. Geez, thousands of replies and hundreds of direct messages. I'm going to fall asleep soon. I have a remote meeting with HR tomorrow, and I'll also be talking with a few other people in the company too. I'll post an update soon. Stay safe. Edit 5. I'll make an update in about 4 hours. Apparently, a chunk of my colleagues walked out after he yelled at a few of them last night. Boss has been put on leave. He also sent me no less than 72 messages via text and 13 voicemails, all of which I'm too lazy to look at the moment. HR and another department lead have been talking with me since 7:30 a.m. Update soon. Update. All right, so after cooling off, talking with HR, some other team leads, and a lawyer for several hours last night and today, it looks like Michael is losing his position in the company and has been put on leave. He's being replaced by somebody from my team. The other people he ran off are coming back and getting a raise for staying. I am being shuffled to another team, getting a $5.15 raise, 4 bonus weeks of vacation, starting yesterday. I need a break. I'm going to use them all right now since the company is already doing some rearranging and such. The team I am getting, I will also be secondary lead on, and is a team I've been trying to get into for 3 years. Much better bonuses and clientele. So I get a promotion and a raise. The new boss is far less of a hassle, and she is a lot more laid back. She went to great effort to get me to join the team she knew I wanted onto today and yesterday and gave me a lot more than I wanted. Michael looks like he's fired from what I can tell. He has a history of issues, but he got his severance from what I heard. My coworkers from the previous team look to have collectively complained and used it as leverage for raises. I think they will get them too. It's weird how fast this all turned around, but I think I'll be in a better place for it financially. Some of the advice I got from here helped a bit, and I wanted y'all to know that. I'll drop a few updates. I'm still doing some coordinating and stuff at the moment. Looks like I'll be taking my old client list with me and merging it with the starter client list they want to give me when I move into the new seat. Edit. I also got a performance goal bonus I was supposedly supposed to get in February. Not sure what happened there. My goodness, that is not something to joke about, but I don't think I need to say that. The comments were really fun. Let's check them out. My wife's boss tried that joke last year on a whole room full of people. Some of them started crying. It was horrible. And this is exactly why you don't do that crap. I'll bet some schmuck is going, "It's just a joke. Settle down, snowflake." No, you're making a joke of someone losing their livelihood, their home, potentially everything they have. It says a lot about the level of privilege and security you feel if you can do a joke like this, think it was great, and be genuinely confused when nobody laughs. Or what level of psychopath? This is why I hate April Fool's Day. It's a day when people who are not funny 364 days of the year suddenly think they're hilarious. And on that day, the boss learned what it truly means to be the April Fool. OP. It was at that moment he realized he was the biggest fool of all. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.